Before we begin the story, let us know where you're watching from by leaving a comment below. If you enjoy this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy the story. Amara stood frozen at the altar, the cathedral's stained glass windows casting rainbow shadows across her ivory gown. The church had fallen into a devastating silence, broken only by the occasional whisper rippling through the crowd of 300 guests. Her trembling hands clutched the bouquet of blush-colored peonies so tightly that water from the stems trickled down her wrists. "He's not coming," her sister Raven whispered, squeezing her arm. "Lucas texted. He said he can't go through with it." The words hit Amara like a physical blow. 6 years of love, 18 months of planning this day, all shattered by a text message. She felt her knees weaken as the whispers grew louder. "Did you hear? Stood up at her own wedding. Poor thing." Amara lifted her chin, tears threatening to spill from her dark eyes. The weight of 300 stares pressed against her skin, suffocating her with pity. She turned to look at her father, whose eyes were filled with a mixture of rage and heartbreak. "I need to address everyone," she said, her voice surprisingly steady despite the hurricane of emotions tearing through her chest. Raven handed her the microphone meant for their vows. Amara took a deep breath, her fingers leaving damp prints on the metal. "Thank you all for coming today," she began, her melodic voice echoing through the cathedral. "As you may have guessed, there's been a change of plans. Lucas won't be joining us." A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. "Please enjoy the reception. The food and music are paid for, and there's no reason to waste it." She attempted a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "I'd appreciate some privacy now." As she turned to walk back down the aisle alone, her vision blurred with unshed tears. The cathedral doors loomed ahead, promising escape from this beautiful nightmare. Each step felt like walking through quicksand in her custom-designed heels, the 20-foot train of her dress dragging behind her like the weight of her shattered dreams. Just as she reached the middle of the aisle, a man she didn't recognize stood up, tall with broad shoulders. His deep brown skin seemed to glow against his charcoal gray suit. His eyes, intense and compassionate, locked with hers. "Wait," he said, his voice deep and smooth like aged bourbon. The entire church held its breath. Amara froze, clutching her bouquet like a lifeline. The stranger stepped into the aisle, blocking her path to the exit. He was breathtakingly handsome, strong jaw, full lips, and eyes that seemed to see straight through to her soul. "I don't know you," she whispered, suddenly aware of how vulnerable she must look. "My name is Zane Brooks," he said, his voice low enough that only she could hear. "I came with your cousin Sage. I know this sounds crazy, but I believe in destiny." He took a step closer, the scent of sandalwood and something uniquely him enveloping her. "Marry me instead." Amara blinked, certain she'd misheard him. "What?" "Marry me," he repeated, his eyes never leaving hers. "Not legally, not permanently, just for today. Don't let him steal this moment from you." "Are you insane?" she whispered fiercely, though something inexplicable stirred in her chest. "Probably," he conceded with a small smile that crinkled the corners of his eyes. "But I've spent my life playing it safe, and where has that gotten me? I look at you, and I see someone brave enough to love completely, someone who deserves better than what just happened." He extended his hand, strong with long fingers and a simple silver ring on his right hand. "Let me help you rewrite this day. We can figure out the rest later. Perhaps it was the shock. Perhaps it was the madness of the moment. Or perhaps it was something deeper, some recognition that passed between them, souls connecting across a crowded church on what should have been the most important day of her life." "You don't even know me," Amara said, her voice barely audible. "I know enough," Zane replied. "I know you deserve to walk out of here with your head high. I know sometimes the universe puts people exactly where they need to be." A tear finally escaped, trailing down Amara's cheek. Zane gently caught it with his thumb, the brief touch sending an unexpected current through her body. "Trust me," he whispered. "Just for today." In that moment, something shifted inside Amara. The humiliation and heartbreak were still there, but alongside them bloomed something newer, wild, reckless courage. "Yes," she heard herself say, surprising even herself. A collective gasp rose from the guests. Raven rushed forward. "Amara, what are you doing? You don't know him." but Amara suddenly felt more certain than she had all day. "I'm rewriting my story," she said, handing her bouquet to her stunned sister. She turned to face the man, this stranger named Zane, and offered her hand. As his warm fingers closed around hers, she felt an inexplicable sense of rightness wash over her. "Pastor James," she called out to the bewildered officiant still standing at the altar, "I believe we still have a wedding to conduct." The next moments passed in a surreal blur. Whispers and exclamations rippled through the church as Amara walked back to the altar, this time with Zane by her side. Her father's face was a mask of confusion, her mother frozen in shock. "Are you absolutely certain?" Pastor James whispered when they reached him. Amara looked at Zane, at this beautiful stranger whose eyes promised shelter in the storm. "I'm sure." What followed was a ceremony unlike any the old cathedral had witnessed in its 100-year history. Pastor James, clearly baffled but professional, adapted the ceremony as best he could. When it came time for rings, Zane shocked her by producing a simple gold band from his pocket. "It was my grandmother's," he explained quietly. "I carry it for luck. Use it for now." The metal was warm against her skin as he slid it onto her finger. When Pastor James pronounced them husband and wife, Zane hesitated, clearly unsure how to proceed with the kiss. Amara surprised herself again by rising on her tiptoes and pressing her lips gently against his. What she didn't expect was the jolt of electricity that passed between them, or how his hand instinctively moved to the small of her back, steady and strong. The kiss lasted only seconds, but when they parted, both were breathing a little faster. Something had shifted between them, something neither had anticipated. "Congratulations," Pastor James said, still looking thoroughly confused. Zane offered his arm, and together they walked back down the aisle past rows of shocked faces. Amara caught glimpses of her bridesmaids' stunned expressions, her mother's frozen smile, her father's suspicious glare, but for the first time that day, she didn't feel the weight of their stares. All she felt was the steady presence of the man beside her and a strange, unexpected lightness in her chest. As they reached the cathedral doors, sunlight streamed in, momentarily blinding them. Zane paused before pushing the doors open. "Are you ready?" he asked, his voice a gentle rumble. Amara took a deep breath and looked up at him, this stranger who was now, through some bizarre twist of fate, her husband for the day. "No," she admitted with a small, genuine laugh that surprised even her. "But let's do it anyway." He smiled then, a full, radiant smile that transformed his serious face and made her heart flutter unexpectedly. "That's the spirit, Mrs. Brooks," he said, pushing open the doors to whatever waited on the other side. As they stepped into the brilliant autumn sunshine, rice and rose petals showering down upon them from the guests who had rushed outside, Amara felt something she hadn't expected to feel today. Hope. This wasn't the wedding she had planned, and Zane Brooks wasn't the groom she had chosen. But as his warm hand held firmly to hers, she couldn't help feeling that perhaps, just perhaps, the universe hadn't abandoned her after all. Little did she know that the handsome stranger beside her, the man who lived in a modest cabin and claimed to be a struggling writer, was actually Declan Brooks Harrington, the reclusive billionaire whose technology had revolutionized renewable energy across the globe. A man who had spent the last 3 years hiding from his own life, searching for something real in a world that had only ever valued him for his wealth. As they ducked into the waiting limousine paid for by the absent Lucas, neither realized that their impulsive decision had just set them on a collision course with destiny, one that would challenge everything they thought they knew about love, trust, and second chances. Chapter 2. Shelter in the Storm. The limousine pulled away from the cathedral, leaving behind a crowd of bewildered guests. Inside, Amara sat with her elaborate train carefully arranged around her, staring at the stranger who was now, in some bizarre sense, her husband. The privacy screen was up, giving them a moment of sanctuary from the chaos they'd just created. "I can't believe I just did that," she whispered, her fingers touching the unfamiliar gold band on her left hand. "I don't even know your last name or anything about you." Zane turned to face her fully, his expression gentle yet intense. "Brooks. Zane Brooks. And you're right. This is completely insane." A sudden laugh bubbled up from Amara's chest, unexpected, almost hysterical, but somehow freeing. Zane's serious expression cracked, and he joined her. the sound of their shared laughter filling the limousine. "What now?" she asked when they'd finally caught their breath. "I have 300 guests at a reception venue, expecting something." "We could make an appearance," Zayn suggested. "Or we could disappear." The way he said disappear sent a shiver down Amara's spine, not of fear, but of possibility. Outside the windows, she noticed dark clouds gathering on the horizon. "There's a storm coming," she murmured. Literally and figuratively, Zayn agreed, following her gaze. "What do you want to do, Amara Valentine?" The way he said her name, like he was savoring each syllable, made something warm unfurl in her chest. "I want to disappear," she decided. "Just for tonight. I can't face all those pitying looks." She turned to him. "Where would we go?" "I have a place," he said, reaching for the intercom to speak to the driver. "A cabin by Lake Sapphire. It's about an hour from here." Amara raised an eyebrow. "You're asking me to go to a remote cabin with a man I just met?" Zayn's expression grew serious. "I promise you'll be safe. You can have your own room, your own space. I just thought you might want somewhere peaceful to process everything." He hesitated. "Or I can take you wherever you want to go." There was something in his Isan earnestness, a depth of feeling that made Amara believe him. Besides, after the madness of marrying a stranger at her own wedding, what was one more reckless decision? "The cabin sounds perfect," she said. 45 minutes later, the skies opened. Rain pounded against the limousine as it turned onto a winding gravel road lined with towering pines. Through the sheets of water, Amara caught glimpses of a vast, steel-gray lake, its surface churning with the storm. The limousine finally stopped before a cabin that was nothing like Amara had imagined. Rather than the rustic shack she'd envisioned, this was a gorgeous structure of glass and cedar, its broad windows facing the turbulent lake. Not ostentatious, but certainly not modest either. "You live here?" she asked as Zayn helped her gather her enormous dress. "Part-time," he replied. "It's where I come to write." They made a dash for the covered porch. Amara's elaborate gown instantly soaked despite Zayn's suit jacket held over her head. By the time they reached the door, they were both laughing again, water dripping from Zayn's dark curls onto his forehead. "Welcome to Lakeshore," he said, opening the door with an old-fashioned key. Inside, the cabin was warm and inviting, open concept with vaulted ceilings, a stone fireplace dominating one wall, and comfortable, understated furniture facing the dramatic view of the storm over the lake. Bookshelves lined every available wall, crammed with well-loved volumes. "It's beautiful," Amara breathed, leaving wet footprints on the polished hardwood floor. "Let me get you something to change into," Zayn said, disappearing down a hallway. Left alone, Amara wandered to the windows, watching lightning fork across the darkened sky. The woman reflected in the glass looked like a stranger her carefully styled hair, now falling in damp tendrils around her face, mascara slightly smudged beneath her eyes, wedding dress clinging to her curves. "Who are you?" she whispered to her reflection. "What are you doing here?" Zayn's voice called from behind her. He held out a soft-looking Henley shirt and flannel pajama pants. "These will be too big, but they're dry. Bathroom's through there." Amara accepted the clothes, their fingers brushing momentarily. "Thank you." For all of this, in the bathroom, she faced the monumental task of extracting herself from her wedding gown. After several minutes of contortion, she admitted defeat and poked her head out the door. "Zayn, I hate to ask, but I need help with all these buttons." He appeared in the hallway, now changed into dry jeans and a simple black t-shirt that hugged his broad shoulders. Something fluttered in Amara's stomach at the sight. "Turn around," he said softly. Amara presented her back to him, gathering her now damp hair over one shoulder. She felt his presence behind her, warm and solid. Then the gentle pressure of his fingers on the first pearl button at the nape of her neck. "There are 37 of them," she said, her voice unexpectedly husky. "I'll count each one," he replied, his breath warming her skin. True to his word, he murmured each number as his fingers worked their way down her spine. By the time he reached 22, Amara's eyes had fluttered closed, her body hyper-aware of his proximity, of the careful way his knuckles occasionally brushed against her bare skin. 37, he finally whispered, his voice deeper than before. The dress loosened, and Amara clutched it to her chest before it could fall. Their eyes met in the bathroom mirror, hers wide and dark, his intense and unreadable "Thank you," she managed. He nodded once, then retreated, pulling the door closed behind him. Alone again, Amara let out a shaky breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. She stepped out of the puddle of ivory satin and laced $30,000 worth of broken dream sand into Zane's clothes, which smelled faintly of sandalwood and pine. When she emerged, the cabin had transformed. Candles flickered on every surface, casting a golden glow through the space. Outside, the storm had intensified, and with a distant crack of thunder, the lights flickered once, twice, then went out completely. "Perfect timing," Zane said from where he knelt by the fireplace, coaxing flames from kindling. "Power's out, but we've got fire, candles, and wine." He gestured to a bottle and 2 glasses on the coffee table. Amara curled up on one end of the sofa, tucking her bare feet beneath her. "So, Zane Brooks, tell me who I married today." He poured 2 glasses of deep red wine and handed one to her before settling at the opposite end of the sofa. In the firelight, his features were sculpted shadows and warm planes, devastatingly handsome, yet somehow vulnerable. "I'm 24. I grew up in Chicago. I write mostly environmental pieces for magazines. Some fiction when I can." Each fact was delivered simply, without embellishment. All technically true, though what Zane didn't mention was that the environmental pieces were actually policy papers that had shaped legislation across 3 continents, or that his fiction had won critical acclaim under a pseudonym. He didn't mention the billions in his accounts, or the technology company that bore his family name. "What made you come to my wedding?" Amara asked, sipping her wine. "And then do what you did?" Zane looked into the fire, considering. "Your cousin Sage and I know each other through mutual friends. When her date canceled, she invited me." He turned his intense gaze back to Amara. "As for the rest, I saw something in your eyes when you stood there, alone a fire that shouldn't be extinguished, a strength being tested." His honesty disarmed her. "I felt like I was drowning," she admitted. "But you weren't. You were breathing underwater." He leaned forward slightly. "Now it's your turn. Tell me who Amara Valentine is." Outside, thunder cracked directly overhead, making Amara jump and slosh wine over her fingers. Zane immediately reached out, catching her hand to steady the glass. His touch sent warmth spiraling up her arm. "Sorry," she laughed nervously, setting down her glass. "Storms make me jumpy." "We don't have to talk," Zane said, still holding her hand. "We can just be." Something about the way he said it without expectation, without pressure made Amara's eyes fill with tears. All day, people had wanted things from her. Strength, composure, decisions. Zane was simply offering presence. "I'm a music therapist," she said, surprising herself by not pulling her hand away. "I work with trauma survivors, using music to help them process and heal. I was supposed to leave tomorrow for a 2-week honeymoon in Bali." "You still could go," Zane suggested. "Might be good to get away." Amara shook her head. Those reservations were in Lucas's name, his credit card. She looked down at their joined hands. "Besides, I don't think I want any reminders of what was supposed to be." Another crack of thunder, and the cabin plunged into deeper darkness as several candles guttered out. Zane reluctantly released her hand to relight them, his face a study in golden light and shadow as he moved around the room. "What about music?" he asked, returning to the sofa, sitting slightly closer than before. "Do you play, or just work with it therapeutically?" "Both," Amara replied, warming to the subject she loved most. "Piano primarily, some guitar. Music has always been my sanctuary." "Mine too," Zane said softly. "My mother played before she died." The simple statement held volumes of unspoken grief. Without thinking, Amara reached for his hand this time, her smaller fingers entwining with his. "I'm sorry," she said. Their eyes met in the flickering light, and something passed between them: recognition, connection, possibility. Outside, the storm raged on, but within the cabin, a different kind of electricity charged the air. "This is crazy," Amara whispered, not specifying whether she meant their impromptu marriage, this moment, or the undeniable pull she felt toward him. "Completely," Zane agreed, his gaze dropping to her lips for just a moment. Neither moved away. The fire crackled. Rain lashed against the windows, and in that stolen moment, sheltered from the storm outside and the storms of their own lives, two strangers who had impulsively bound themselves together began to wonder if perhaps the universe hadn't made a mistake after all. Zane's free hand rose slowly, giving her every chance to pull away, and gently brushed a damp curl from her cheek. His touch lingered, feather light against her skin. "Amara," he said, her name a question and a prayer. Their first real kiss knot, the perfunctory one at the altar, was as inevitable as the tide meeting the shore. Amara leaned in just as Zane did, their lips meeting in the middle, tentative at first, then with growing certainty. His hand cradled her face, thumb tracing her cheekbone as though memorizing its curve. Her fingers tightened around his, anchoring herself as the world seemed to tilt beneath her. The kiss deepened. Amara's free hand finding its way to Zane's chest, feeling the strong, rapid beat of his heart beneath her palm. When they finally parted, both were breathing unevenly, eyes wide with surprise at the intensity of what had passed between them. "I wasn't planning that," Zane admitted, his voice rough. "Neither was I," Amara replied, her lips still tingling. "But I'm not sorry." A smile, genuine and unguarded, transformed Zane's serious face. "Neither am I." Outside, the storm continued to rage, but inside the cabin by the lake, something new had taken root, fragile and unexpected, yet undeniably real. Neither Amara nor Zane knew what the morning would bring, what complications awaited them in the light of day. But for now, in the sanctuary they'd created, the present moment was enough. Chapter 3. Hidden Truths. Morning light filtered through the cabin windows, painting golden stripes across Amara's face. She stirred, momentarily disoriented by the unfamiliar surroundings before the events of the previous day came rushing back. The wedding, the abandonment. Zane. She sat up on the sofa where she had eventually fallen asleep after hours of conversation, punctuated by increasingly passionate kisses. Zane had insisted she take his bed, but Amara had refused, unwilling to displace him further after all he'd done. Now a soft blanket she didn't remember having covered her, and the scent of coffee perfumed the air. "Good morning." Zane's deep voice came from the kitchen area. He stood at the counter, 2 mugs in hand, looking unfairly handsome in the morning light. His curls were tousled from sleep, and he wore a fresh t-shirt that stretched across his broad shoulders. "You're still here," Amara said, then immediately felt foolish. Of course he was here. It was his cabin. Where else would I be? He approached, offering a steaming mug. "I wasn't sure how you take it." "Black is fine," she said, accepting the coffee, careful not to let their fingers touch. In the sobering light of day, she felt suddenly shy about the intimacy they'd shared the night before. Zane settled into an armchair across from her, giving her space. "How are you feeling?" Amara considered the question, taking a sip of the surprisingly excellent coffee. "Like I'm in someone else's life," she admitted. "Everything that happened yesterday feels surreal." "Understandable." Zane's gaze was steady, patient. "What would help you feel grounded?" The question surprised her, thoughtful in a way few people had ever been with her. Most people, including Lucas, always seemed to want something from her time, her energy, her care. Zane simply offered presence. "I should probably check my phone," she sighed. "Face reality. It's charging in the kitchen." Power came back around dry. Null am. Amara nodded her thanks and padded to the kitchen, Zane's oversized clothes dragging beneath her feet. Her phone, plugged in beside a sleek laptop she hadn't noticed the night before, showed 97 missed calls and hundreds of texts. "Oh God." She groaned, scrolling through the notifications. Most were from her mother, Raven, and friends, expressing varying degrees of shock, concern, and, in her mother's case, outrage. But it was the text from Lucas that made her blood run cold. "What have you done? Who is this guy?" "I was just late." "Just late?" she whispered incredulously. "By an hour and a half?" She felt Zane's presence behind her before she saw him, a warmth that somehow steadied her racing heart. "Bad news?" he asked quietly. "Lucas claims he was just late, not that he wasn't coming at all." She turned to face Zane, suddenly aware of how close they were standing. Why would Raven say he wasn't coming if that wasn't true? Zane's expression darkened. Would you like me to find out? There was something in his tone, a quiet authority, a certainty that he could get answers if he wanted them, that caught Amara's attention. But before she could respond, her phone rang in her hand. Raven. I should take this, she said. Zane nodded and moved away, giving her privacy. I'll make breakfast. Amara took a deep breath and answered. Raven? Amara. Her sister's voice was frantic. Where are you? Are you okay? Everyone's losing their minds. Who is that man? The questions came rapid fire, giving Amara no chance to answer. Raven, slow down. I'm fine. I'm safe. But where are you? Mom is about to call the police. I'm at Zane's cabin by Lake Sapphire. Amara watched as Zane moved efficiently around the kitchen, cracking eggs into a bowl. And please don't call the police. This was my choice. Your choice, Amara? You married a total stranger after Lucas. After Lucas what? Amara interrupted. You told me he texted that he wasn't coming. A pause. That's what he said. Yet now he's claiming he was just late. Another, longer pause. I might have paraphrased. His actual text said he was having second thoughts and needed time, but he was on his way. I thought it was kinder to just tell you he wasn't coming at all. Amara felt her temper flare. So I'd move on faster with the first stranger who offered. I was trying to protect you. Raven's voice cracked. He's been texting that woman again. Amara. Chloe, from his office. I saw the messages when he asked me to check his phone for the florist's number last week. He's been having an affair. The news hit Amara like a physical blow. She sank onto a kitchen stool, suddenly grateful for the solid countertop beneath her elbows. Why didn't you tell me? She whispered. I tried the night before the rehearsal dinner. But you were so happy, so excited. You said whatever I had to say could wait until after the honeymoon. Fragments of memory came back to Amara. Raven trying to talk to her, Amara brushing her off, too caught up in final wedding details to pay attention. I'm so sorry, Amara, Raven continued, her voice small. I thought I was doing the right thing yesterday. When he texted about having doubts, about Chloe maybe coming to the church, I just couldn't let him hurt you like that in front of everyone. Amara closed her eyes, processing. So instead, I married a man I'd never met. Are you okay? Has he hurt you? No, Amara said firmly, glancing at Zane, who was studiously pretending not to listen while he cooked. He's been nothing but kind. Mom wants you to come home. We can sort everything out. Get the marriage annulled. I need time, Raven, to think. Amara ran a hand through her tangled curls. Tell Mom I'm safe, and I'll call her later. Okay. After extracting a promise from her sister not to share her location with anyone else, Amara ended the call and set the phone down with shaking hands. Everything all right? Zane asked, sliding a plate of fluffy scrambled eggs and toast in front of her. Not remotely, Amara sighed, then recounted what Raven had told her. Zane listened without interruption, his expression growing increasingly troubled. When she finished, he reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and covered her hand with his. I'm sorry, he said simply. No one deserves that kind of betrayal. His touch anchored her, warm and steady. The irony is, if Raven had just told me about the affair when she found out, none of this would have happened. She stared down at the gold band still on her finger. I wouldn't have married Lucas. Or you. Zane withdrew his hand, something flickering in his eyes before his expression became carefully neutral. Do you regret it? What happened yesterday? The question hung between them, weighted with implications. Amara considered it honestly. I should, she finally said. It was impulsive and crazy, and potentially a legal nightmare. She looked up, meeting his gaze directly. But I don't regret it. Something like relief softened Zane's features. Neither do I. They ate in companionable silence for a while, the morning sun strengthening outside the windows, turning the lake into a mirror of dancing light. What would you like to do today? Zane asked as he cleared their plates, declining Amara's offer to help. She considered, I need some clothes that aren't wedding-related or borrowed, and I should probably get my things from the apartment I shared with Lucas. Zane nodded. I can take you, or lend you my car if you'd prefer to go alone. Would you mind coming with me? The thought of facing the apartment with all its memories and the remnants of the life she'd planned, alone, was too daunting. Of course, an hour later, freshly showered and wearing her wedding day lingerie beneath Zane's clothes, a fact that made her acutely aware of her body whenever his gaze landed on her, Amara sat beside him in a modest but well-maintained Volvo, headed toward the city. "Can I ask you something?" she said, watching his profile as he drove. "Anything. Why do you have a woman's ring in your pocket? The one you gave me yesterday." Zane's hands tightened imperceptibly on the steering wheel. "It was my grandmother's," he said, "like I told you. She gave it to me before she died. Told me to give it to someone special." A small smile touched his lips. "She was very specific that I shouldn't waste it on an engagement ring. Said those were commercialized nonsense. It should be a gift of meaning, not obligation. She sounds wonderful. She was." Nostalgia softened his features. "She raised me after my parents died. Taught me the value of simplicity." Amara glanced around the understated but clearly high-quality car. "Is that why you live in a cabin in the woods? Simplicity?" "Partly," Zane admitted, "but it's also about authenticity. In my experience, people behave differently when they think you have resources." The careful way he phrased it caught Amara's attention. "And do you have resources?" Zane's smile turned enigmatic. "I have enough. For what matters." Before Amara could probe further, they arrived at the upscale apartment building she'd shared with Lucas. Her stomach clenched at the sight. "We can do this another day," Zane offered, sensing her hesitation. Amara squared her shoulders. "No, I need to face this." In the elevator, riding up to the 12th floor, Amara became acutely aware of Zane's proximity, of the slight scent of sandalwood that seemed to cling to him, of how his presence both calmed and excited her in equal measure. When his hand brushed hers as they stepped out onto her floor, she impulsively twined her fingers with his. Zane looked down at their joined hands, then at her, a question in his eyes. "For courage," she explained softly. His answering smile sent warmth cascading through her. That warmth evaporated as she unlocked the apartment door. Inside, evidence of Lucas's hasty departure was everywhere: drawers left open, closet doors ajar, a half-empty bottle of expensive scotch on the coffee table. "He's been here," she said, moving further into the space she'd once considered home. Recently, on the dining table lay an envelope with her name scrawled across it. With a feeling of dread, she opened it to find a brief note. "Amara, took what's mine. Joint accounts emptied. Your stunt yesterday voided our prenup. Lawyer will contact the bastard." She whispered, feeling the blood drain from her face. "What is it?" Zane moved to her side, radiating concern. She handed him the note wordlessly, then sank into a dining chair. "We had nearly $30,000 in our joint accounts for the honeymoon, for a down payment on a house." Her voice caught. "My portion was at least half of that." Zane's expression darkened as he read the note. "This is theft. We can go to the police. The accounts were joint. Legally, he had every right." She pressed her fingers to her temples, where a headache was blooming. "I can't believe I was so stupid." "You weren't stupid," Zane said firmly, crouching beside her chair to meet her eyes. "You were trusting. There's a difference." The conviction in his voice, the fierce protectiveness in his gaze, made something shift in Amara's chest. Without thinking, she leaned forward and pressed her lips to his. Unlike their kisses the night before, which had been exploratory and gradually deepening, this kiss was immediate and intense. Zane made a sound of surprise before responding, one hand coming up to cradle the back of her head, fingers tangling in her curls. Amara poured everything into the kiss: her hurt, her anger, her growing attraction to this enigmatic man who had stepped into her life at its lowest point and somehow made her feel safe again. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing hard. "What was that for?" Zane asked, his voice husky. "For being the one good thing in this mess," Amara answered truthfully. He searched her eyes for a moment, then nodded once, as if coming to a decision. "Let's get your things and go home." Home. The casual way he referred to his cabin as their shared space made Amara's heart skip. It should have terrified her, this rapid intimacy with a virtual stranger. Instead, it felt like the only solid ground in a world that had shifted beneath her feet. As they moved through the apartment, Gathering her belongings, Amara noticed things about Zayn that didn't quite align with his simple writer personae way he assessed the space with one sweeping glance. The expert way he helped her check her jewelry box to ensure nothing was missing. The fluid grace with which he moved, like someone who had trained physically for years. Her suspicions deepened when he excused himself to take a call while she was packing clothes. Through the partially opened bedroom door, she caught fragments of his conversation. "Yes, I need full background. Financial history. Lucas Chen. Recent transactions." Zayn's voice was different, crisp, authoritative. "Use the secure channel. Priority level 1. When he returned, his expression was carefully neutral. But Amara sensed a tension in him that hadn't been there before. "Everything okay?" she asked, watching him closely. "Fine," he said too quickly. Then, seeming to catch himself, he added, "Just my agent checking in." The lie hung between them, small but undeniable. Amara chose not to challenge it, instead focusing on finishing her packing. But as they loaded her bags into his car 30 minutes later, she found herself wondering just who Zayn Brooks really was, and what secrets he might be hiding behind those intense, beautiful eyes that had already begun to feel like home. Chapter 4. The melody between us. The drive back to the cabin was quiet, tension simmering beneath the surface. Questions burned on Amara's tongue, but something held her back from voicing them. For his part, Zayn seemed lost in thought, his strong hands gripping the steering wheel a bit too tightly, his jaw set in a way that emphasized its perfect angle. As the landscape transitioned from urban sprawl to lush forest, Amara found herself studying his profile, trying to reconcile the gentle, thoughtful man who had held her through the night with the commanding voice she'd overheard on the phone. There was a duality to him that both intrigued and unsettled her. "You're staring," Zayn said without taking his eyes off the road, a small smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "I'm observing," Amara corrected. "There's a difference." He chuckled, the sound warm and genuine. "And what are you observing? That you're more complicated than you let on." His smile faded slightly. "Everyone's complicated, Amara." "True, but not everyone makes mysterious phone calls about background checks while helping me pack." Zayn's hands tightened on the wheel, the only indication that her words had landed. After a beat of silence, he sighed. "You heard that?" "Some of it." Amara turned more fully toward him. "Are you going to tell me who you really called?" "Because we both know it wasn't your agent." The car slowed as they turned onto the gravel road, leading to the cabin. Zayn seemed to be weighing his words carefully. "I have a friend in financial security," he finally said. "I asked him to look into Lucas's recent transactions to see if there's a way to recover what he took from you." Relief and embarrassment washed through Amara in equal measure. "Oh, I should have told you," Zayn continued, pulling up to the cabin and cutting the engine. "I didn't want to give you false hope if nothing comes of it." The afternoon sun caught in his dark curls as he turned to face her, his eyes sincere and searching. "I'm sorry for not being transparent." Something in his apology, the genuine regret, the absence of excuse touched Amara deeply. How different from Lucas, who had never once in their 6 years together offered a straightforward apology. "Thank you," she said softly, "for trying to help." Zayn reached across the console, his fingers tentatively brushing hers. "Whatever happens between us, whether this lasts a day or longer, I want you to be okay financially, emotionally, in every way." The simple sincerity of his words made Amara's throat tighten. She turned her hand over, lacing her fingers with his. "You continue to surprise me, Zayn Brooks." His smile returned, transforming his serious face. "Good surprises, I hope." "So far." She squeezed his hand once before releasing it. "Let's go inside. I want to freshen up before I call my mother and face the music." Together, they carried Amara's bags into the cabin. The familiar scent of cedar and pine enveloped her as she stepped inside, feeling strangely like coming home despite having spent only one night there. "I put fresh towels in the guest room," Zayn said, setting her suitcase down in a cozy bedroom with a view of the lake. "Take all the time you need." After a hot shower and a change into her own cloth-simple black leggings and an oversized emerald sweater, Amara felt more like herself than she had since the wedding disaster. She found Zayn in the kitchen, preparing a late lunch. "Something smells amazing," she said, perching on a bar stool. "Just a simple pasta," he replied, stirring a sauce that looked anything but simple. "How are you feeling?" "Better." She watched as he moved with practiced ease around the kitchen. "You cook often?" "It relaxes me." He offered a spoonful of sauce for her to taste. "Too much pepper?" Amara accepted the taste, the rich flavors exploding on her tongue. "It's perfect," she said, licking her lips. Zane's eyes darkened as they followed the movement, and the air between them suddenly charged with awareness. He cleared his throat and turned back to the stove. "I, noticed your suitcase was pretty heavy for just clothes," he said, clearly trying to lighten the mood. "What else did you bring?" Amara smiled, allowing the moment to pass. "My digital keyboard. I couldn't leave it behind. It was a gift from my grandmother when I graduated music therapy school." "You're welcome to set it up here," Zane offered, serving their pasta into elegant bowls. "There's plenty of space." They ate at the small breakfast nook, the conversation flowing easily between them. Amara found herself sharing stories about her work, about the profound moments when music unlocked something in her traumatized clients, allowing healing to begin. Zane listened with genuine interest, asking thoughtful questions that showed he was truly engaged. "What about you?" she asked as they cleared the dishes together. "What do you write about?" A shadow passed across his face, there and gone so quickly she almost missed it. "Environmental issues, mostly the impact of corporate policies on natural resources. Not exactly the stuff of riveting dinner conversation." "I disagree," Amara countered it. "The planet's well-being should be everyone's dinner conversation." Zane's smile returned, warming his eyes. "A woman after my own heart." The phrase hung between them, laden with implications neither was quite ready to address. Amara turned away, suddenly shy. "I should call my mother before she really does send the police after us." "Use the deck if you want privacy," Zane suggested, nodding toward the sliding glass doors. "The lake is particularly beautiful this time of day." The call with her mother went about as well as Amara, expected a mixture of frantic concern, anger, and demands that she return home immediately. Amara held firm, explaining that she needed space and time to process everything, promising to visit in a few days. By the time she ended the call, the sun was beginning to set, painting the lake in shades of copper and gold. She found Zane in the living room, stoking a small fire against the evening chill. He had changed into dark jeans and a soft Henley that emphasized the breadth of his shoulders. Something about seeing him in this domestic setting, firelight playing across his features, made her heart beat faster. "How did it go?" he asked, straightening. "About as expected. She thinks I've lost my mind, but she's decided not to report me as a missing person. So that's progress." Zane smiled. "Small victories." "Very small." Amara wandered around the living room, trailing her fingers along the bookshelves. "You have an impressive collection." "Books are the best company," he replied, watching her move about the space. "At least, that's what I used to think." The implication in his words sent a pleasant warmth through her. She continued her exploration, stopping when she reached a section of wall covered by a large tapestry. "What's behind here?" she asked, curiosity piqued. Zane hesitated. "Nothing important." Something in his tone made Amara even more curious. She lifted the edge of the tapestry, revealing what looked like a door. "Secret room, Amara?" Zane started, but she had already pulled the tapestry further aside. "Is this a door? What's in there?" "Your writer's cave. Or maybe where you hide the bodies," she teased. Zane sighed, resignation in his posture. "Go ahead. Open it." Intrigued by his reaction, Amara turned the handle and pushed. The door swung open to reveal not a secret room, but a stunning grand piano, its polished surface gleaming even in the dim light. "Oh," she breathed, stepping inside what was clearly a small music room. "Zane, it's beautiful." He followed her in, reaching past her to turn on a lamp. The soft light revealed a Steinway concert grand, meticulously maintained, surrounded by acoustic paneling. "You play?" she asked, running her fingers reverently along the edge of the instrument. "Not really." His voice was tight with what sounded like pain. "My mother did." This was hers. Understanding dawned. "The one who died?" Zane nodded, his expression carefully neutral. I keep it maintained, but I haven't heard it played in years. May I? Amara asked gently. Something flickered in his eyes: hesitation, vulnerability, longing. Please. Amara sat at the bench, adjusting it slightly before placing her fingers on the keys. The piano was perfectly tuned, its action responsive and smooth beneath her touch. She began with something simple, a Debussy piece that always calmed her. The notes filled the small room, rich and resonant. As she played, Amara glanced up to find Zayn leaning against the doorframe. His eyes closed, an expression of such yearning on his face that it made her breath catch. Without stopping, she transitioned into one of her own compositions. A piece she had written during a particularly difficult time in her life, when music had been her only solace. The melody was haunting, speaking of loss but also of hope, of finding beauty amidst pain. When the final notes faded, Zayn opened his eyes. To her shock, they glistened with unshed tears. That was, he began, then shook his head, apparently unable to find the words. One of my compositions, Amara said softly. It's called After the Storm. It's extraordinary, Zayn whispered. You're extraordinary. The naked emotion in his voice made something unfurl in Amara's chest, a flower opening to the sun after a long winter. She rose from the bench and moved toward him, drawn by a force she didn't want to resist. When they were just inches apart, she reached up and touched his face, her fingers tracing the strong line of his jaw. Thank you for sharing this with me. I know it wasn't easy. Zayn caught her hand, pressing a kiss to her palm that sent shivers racing up her arm. Nothing about you is easy, Amara Valentine, he murmured against her skin. You tear down my carefully constructed walls like they're made of paper. Is that a bad thing? She whispered, her free hand coming to rest on his chest, feeling the strong, rapid beat of his heart. Terrifying, he admitted, his eyes never leaving hers, and exhilarating. Their lips met in a kiss unlike any they had shared before, not tentative like their first, not desperate like at the apartment, but deep and searching, as if they were both seeking answers to questions they hadn't yet voiced. Zayn's arms encircled her, drawing her closer until there was no space between them. Amara felt herself melting into him, her body recognizing something. Her mind was just beginning to understand that whatever this was between them, it was rare and precious and worth exploring. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, the decision had already been made in the spaces between heartbeats. In the way their eyes spoke volumes their lips had yet to form. Amara. Zayn breathed her name like a prayer. Are you sure? In answer, she took his hand and led him from the music room, through the living room with its crackling fire, down the hallway to his bedroom, a space she had glimpsed but not entered the night before. Under the silvery light of the moon streaming through the windows, they undressed each other slowly, reverently, each touch an exploration, each kiss a discovery. When they finally came together on his bed, skin against skin, Amara felt as though she had been waiting for this moment her entire life, without knowing it. Zayn worshipped her body with a devotion that brought tears to her eyes, his hands and lips mapping every curve, every sensitive spot. When he finally joined his body with hers, Amara gasped at the perfect rightness of it, at how completely they fit together. They moved as one, finding a rhythm as natural as breathing, as inevitable as the tide. And when passion crested and broke over them in waves of pleasure, Amara cried out his name, feeling something fundamental shift within her, a realignment of her heart's true north. Afterward, as they lay tangled in each other's arms, sweat cooling on their skin, Zayn pressed a kiss to her forehead. I wasn't expecting you, he whispered into the darkness. In my life, in my heart. Amara lifted her head to look at him, finding his eyes vulnerable and open in a way they hadn't been before. I wasn't expecting any of this, she admitted. But I'm not sorry it happened. Neither am I. His fingers traced lazy patterns on her bare back. Though there are things about me you should know. Amara pressed a finger to his lips. Tomorrow. For tonight, let's just be Zayn and Amara. Nothing more, nothing less. He kissed her fingertip, then drew her closer. I can do that. As Amara drifted toward sleep in the shelter of Zayn's strong arms, she realized with perfect clarity that whatever happened next, whatever secrets Zayn was keeping, whatever complications awaited them in the morning, Something profound and irreversible had happened between them. A connection had formed, deep and abiding, like the roots of ancient trees intertwining beneath the soil. And for the first time since being abandoned at the altar just 2 days ago, Amara felt not just consoled, not just distracted, but truly, completely alive. Chapter 5. The Ex returns. Morning sunlight streamed through the windows, painting golden patterns across the tangled sheets. Amara awoke slowly, her body pleasantly sore in ways that brought a smile to her lips before she even opened her eyes. The memory of the night before Zane's hands on her skin, his lips tracing fire down her body, the way he'd whispered her name as they moved together sent a delicious shiver through her. But the space beside her was empty. She sat up, clutching the sheet to her chest, momentarily disoriented. Had he regretted their night together? Had it all been too much too soon? The sound of a shower running calmed her racing thoughts. Of course, he was just bathing. Amara sank back against the pillows, inhaling his scent on the sheets, allowing herself a moment to process the whirlwind of the past 3 days. From abandoned bride to passionate lover in 72 hours, if someone had told her this would be her life a week ago, she would have laughed in disbelief. Yet somehow, lying in Zane's bed, surrounded by evidence of their passion, felt more right than anything had in a very long time. The shower stopped. A few moments later, Zane emerged from the bathroom with a towel slung low on his hips, droplets of water clinging to his broad shoulders. The sight of him all sculpted muscle and damp curls made Amara's mouth go dry. "You're awake," he said, his voice morning rough, in a way that sent heat pooling low in her belly. "I was hoping to surprise you with breakfast in bed." "This is a pretty good surprise, too," Amara replied, unabashedly admiring him. A slow smile spread across Zane's face as he recognized the desire in her eyes. "See something you like?" "Definitely." Amara let the sheet fall slightly, revealing the curve of her breast. In 2 strides, Zane was at the bedside. He leaned down, bracing his hands on either side of her, and captured her lips in a kiss that started gentle but quickly blazed into something more urgent. Amara reached up, her fingers threading through his damp hair, pulling him closer. "You're dangerous," he murmured against her lips. "I had plans today." "What kind of plans?" She nipped playfully at his lower lip. "Responsible ones." He groaned as her hand trailed down his chest toward the towel. "That involved actually leaving this bed." "Overrated," Amara whispered, tugging the towel loose and drawing him down to her. Their lovemaking was different from the night before, playful and urgent, where it had been tender and exploratory. Afterward, they lay tangled together, breathless and laughing. "I think you've thoroughly derailed my morning," Zane said, pressing a kiss to her temple. "Worth it?" Amara asked, tracing lazy patterns on his chest. "Absolutely." He caught her hand, bringing it to his lips. "But we should probably eat something. Human bodies need fuel, especially after—" He raised an eyebrow suggestively. "Are you offering to cook for me, Zane Brooks?" "I'm offering to worship you in every way I know how, Amara Valentine," he replied, his tone light, but his eyes serious in a way that made her heart skip. "Food is just one of them." As Zane prepared breakfast, wearing only pajama pants that hung low on his hips, Amara called her sister from the deck, dressed in one of Zane's shirts that fell to mid-thigh. Raven was relieved to hear from her, though still bewildered by the situation. "So, you're just staying with him? This stranger you married?" Raven asked, her voice pitched with concern. "He's not a stranger anymore," Amara replied, watching through the glass doors as Zane moved around the kitchen. "We've gotten to know each other quite well." The silence on the other end spoke volumes. "Amara, please tell me you're being careful, both emotionally and otherwise." "I'm a grown woman, Raven. I know what I'm doing." "Do you? 3 days ago, you were about to marry Lucas. Now you're with someone completely different. I'm worried about you." Amara sighed, recognizing the genuine concern in her sister's voice. "I understand why you're worried. This isn't like me, but Raven, there's something about Zane, something real and deep, and I can't explain it. I just need time to explore what this is." "Okay," Raven conceded. "But promise you'll meet me for coffee tomorrow in the city. I miss you. And Mom is driving me crazy with questions." "Promisey." As Amara ended the call, Zane appeared with 2 steaming mugs. "Everything okay?" he asked, handing her one. Just my sister being protective. Amara took a sip of the perfect coffee. He'd remembered exactly how she liked it. I promised to meet her in the city tomorrow. I'll drive you, Zayn offered immediately. Thank you. She reached for his free hand. For everything. His eyes softened as he brought her fingers to his lips. You make it easy to want to take care of you, Amara, though I suspect you're perfectly capable of taking care of yourself. I am, she agreed. But it's nice not to have to sometimes. After breakfast, Amara set up her digital keyboard in the main room, near enough to the piano room that both instruments could be played without moving equipment. As her fingers danced across the keys, working on a new composition inspired by the tumultuous events of recent days, she watched Zayn through the open door, sitting on the cabin's front steps with his laptop. He was so handsome it almost hurt to look at him, the strong line of his back, the way the sunlight caught in his curls. But it was more than his physical beauty that drew her. It was the way he listened when she spoke, truly listened, the way his eyes crinkled at the corners when he smiled, the way he made her feel both protected and free at the same time. Later, as afternoon faded toward evening, they walked along the lakeshore hand in hand, talking about everything and nothing. Amara found herself sharing dreams she'd never voiced to Lukash, her desire to compose a full symphony someday, her hope of opening a music therapy center for underprivileged children. You could do it, Zayn said, his conviction unwavering. You have the talent and the heart for it. It takes more than talent and heart, Amara sighed. It takes money, which I'm a bit short on at the moment, thanks to Lucas. Zayn stopped walking, turning to face her fully. Money is just a tool, Amara. The right person with the right vision can always find it. Something in his Tonia's certainty beyond what a struggling environmental writer should possess tickled at the back of her mind. But before she could pursue it, Zayn pulled her into his arms, his lips finding hers in a kiss that drove all questions from her thoughts. That evening, after they'd made dinner together, moving around the kitchen in perfect synchronicity as though they'd done it 1,000 times, Zayn's phone rang. He glanced at the screen, his expression darkening. I need to take this, he said, stepping out onto the deck. Through the glass doors, Amara could see his posture change, becoming straighter, more commanding. His face transformed into something harder, more remote than she'd ever seen. This wasn't Zayn, the gentle, passionate lover. This was someone else, entirely. When he returned, that unfamiliar hardness lingered in his eyes for a moment before softening as they landed on her. Everything okay? She asked, studying him. Just work, he said too casually. My editor needs some revisions on an article. The lie hung between them, subtle but unmistakable. Amara chose not to challenge it directly. Must be some serious revisions to put that look on your face. Zayn hesitated, clearly weighing how much to share. The truth is, I've been working on an investigative piece about corporate corruption in water rights. It's complicated. Not the whole truth, Amara suspected, but not entirely a lie either. Sounds important. It is. He moved to her, cupping her face in his hands. But not as important as this, as us. His kiss was different this time, urgent, almost desperate, as though he was trying to convey something words couldn't express. Amara responded in kind, her hands slipping beneath his shirt, needing the feel of his skin against hers. They made love on the living room sofa, bathed in firelight, with a wild intensity that left them both trembling. Afterward, as Amara lay curled against him, she couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted, that Zayn was holding something back, something that troubled him deeply. Zayn, she whispered against his chest. His fingers played idly with her curls. Whatever it is that's bothering you, you can tell me. He was silent for so long that Amara thought he might not answer. Finally, he sighed, his chest rising and falling beneath her cheek. There are things about my life, about who I am, that I haven't told you, he admitted, his voice low. Things that might change how you see me. Amara propped herself up on her elbow to look at him. Try me. The vulnerability in his eyes nearly broke her heart. I will. Tomorrow. I promise. Okay. She sealed the promise with a kiss. Tomorrow. Morning brought another perfect day, sunlight dancing on the lake's surface. After a shower together that led to another passionate encounter against the bathroom wall, Amara and Zayn prepared to drive into the city for her coffee date with Raven. as Zane loaded Amara's keyboard into the car, wanted to show Raven the new composition she'd been working. On his phone rang again. This time, the call was brief, but when he returned to her, his expression was grim. "What is it?" Amara asked, immediately concerned. "That was my contact in financial security," Zane said carefully. "The one looking into Lucas's accounts." Amara's heart skipped. "Did he find something?" "Yes. The money Lucas took from your joint account, she used it to place a down payment on a condo in the city." "Wait, he bought property just days after leaving me at the altar?" Amara felt her temper flare. "With my money?" "With your money," Zane confirmed, his own anger evident in the tight line of his jaw. In both his and Chloe's names, the betrayal stung all over again, sharp and fresh. "That bastard. My contact is building a case with the right documentation. We can prove that portion of the funds was clearly yours, especially if you have records of deposits." "I have everything," Amara said, determination replacing her anger. "Every paycheck, every deposit. I keep meticulous records." Zane's smile was fierce with pride. "That's my girl." The phrase casual yet possessive sent a thrill through Amara that had nothing to do with financial justice. "My girl." She liked the sound of it on his lips. The drive to the city was comfortable, filled with easy conversation and occasional touches Zane's hand on her thigh, her fingers playing with the hair at the nape of his neck when he stopped at traffic lights. They decided to meet Raven at a small cafe near the park, a place Amara had often visited to write music. "I'll find parking and join you in a bit," Zane said as he pulled up near the cafe. "Give you some sister time first." Amara leaned across the console to kiss him. "Don't be too long. I want to show Raven the man who swept me off my feet." His answering smile was radiant. 10 minutes. 15 tops. The cafe was busy with mid-morning customers, but Amara spotted Raven immediately, her sister's bright blue braids distinctive among the crowd. She waved, making her way to the table. "Amara." Raven stood, embracing her tightly. "God, I've been so worried." "I'm fine, Raven." "Better than fine, actually." Amara couldn't help the smile that spread across her face. Raven's eyes widened as she studied her sister. "Oh my God, you slept with him." "Raven." Amara glanced around, but no one was paying attention. "You did. Look at you. You're glowing." Raven pulled her into the chair. "Tell me everything, and I mean everything." For the next several minutes, Amara found herself sharing more than she'd intended how kind Zane had been, how he listened in a way Lucas never had, how their connection felt almost cosmic in its intensity. "And the sex," she confided, lowering her voice, "is absolutely mind-blowing." Raven fanned herself dramatically. "I need details." "He's more than generous," Amara cut in, her cheeks warming at the memory. "And very, very thorough." "I hate you right now," Raven laughed. "Here I am, single and celibate, and you go from one fiancé to what sounds like the world's most perfect man in 3 days flat." "He's not perfect," Amara said, though she couldn't actually think of a specific flaw at that moment. "He's just perfect for me." Somehow, Raven's expression sobered. "You really like him. This isn't just a rebound." "I really do," Amara admitted. "I know it's fast and crazy and probably seems insane from the outside, but Raven, I've never felt this way before, not even with Lucas. Especially not with Lucas." Raven corrected, reaching for her hand. "Because Lucas never deserved you. He was never good enough." The siblings shared a smile, years of understanding passing between them. Then Raven's eyes shifted, focusing on something over Amara's shoulder, and her smile faltered. "Speaking of the devil," she muttered. Amara turned, her blood freezing in her veins. There, approaching their table with confident strides, was Lucas, looking as handsome and polished as ever in his tailored suit. Beside him walked a slender woman with sleek black hair. Chloe, Amara presumed. "Well, well," Lucas said, his voice dripping with false warmth. "If it isn't my runaway bride." Amara straightened her spine, summoning dignity she didn't entirely feel. "Lucas, I have nothing to say to you." "Really?" "Because I have plenty to say to you." His smile didn't reach his eyes. Starting with how you made me look like a fool in front of everyone we know. You did that all on your own, Raven interjected, her tone icy. Lucas ignored her, his focus entirely on Amara. Who was he? That man you married? Some actor you hired to save face? None of your business, Amara replied evenly, though her heart raced painfully in her chest. It became my business when you publicly humiliated me. Lucas hissed, his pleasant facade cracking. When you threw away 6 years for some theatrical stunt. Chloe tugged at his arm. Lucas, let's go. This isn't worth it. Oh, it's worth it, he countered, shaking her off. I want to know what kind of desperate loser agrees to marry someone he's never met. That would be me, came a deep voice from behind him. Zane stood there, his presence commanding attention instantly. In the city, dressed in dark jeans and a simple but clearly expensive shirt, he looked different, somehow more polished, more imposing. His eyes, fixed on Lucas, held a dangerous glint. And who might you be? Lucas asked, clearly caught off guard by Zane's confident demeanor. Zane Brooks, Amara's husband. He moved to stand beside Amara, his hand coming to rest protectively on her shoulder. You must be the man foolish enough to let her go. The tension between the two men was palpable, crackling in the air like electricity before a storm. Lucas recovered quickly, his expression morphing into one of smug assessment. So, you're the knight in shining armor, he said, looking Zane up and down. Tell me, what kind of man marries a complete stranger? A desperate one, or perhaps... His eyes caught on Zane's wrist, where an elegant watch gleamed, one with ulterior motives. Amara followed his gaze, noticing for the first time the timepiece Zane wore something she hadn't seen before, clearly expensive, possibly very expensive. Zane subtly shifted his arm, as though aware of her scrutiny. The kind of man who recognizes value when he sees it, Zane replied coolly. Unlike some. Lucas' eyes narrowed. Nice watch for a watt, was it? Amara told everyone, a struggling writer. That looks like a limited edition Patek Philippe. $40,000 at least. Amara felt as though the floor was tilting beneath her. $40,000 for a watch? You seem very interested in my possessions, Zane said, his voice dangerously soft. Perhaps because you've been helping yourself to Amara's. Lucas's confident smile faltered. I don't know what you're talking about. I think you do. Zane's hand squeezed Amara's shoulder gently. The funds you emptied from your joint accounts, the ones you used for a down payment on a condo with your girlfriend here. Half of that money belonged to Amara. Color drained from Lucas's face. How did you? Let's just say I have resources, Zane interrupted, a cold smile playing at his lips. And I'm more than happy to use them to make sure Amara gets what's rightfully hers. Something shifted in Lucas's expression, uncertainty, replacing arrogance. Who are you, really? He demanded of Zane. Someone you don't want as an enemy, Zane replied simply. For a moment, it seemed Lucas might argue. Then Chloe tugged his arm again, more urgently. Lucas, let's go, please. With a final glare, Lucas allowed himself to be led away, though not before calling over his shoulder. This isn't over. As they disappeared through the door, Raven let out a low whistle. Well, that was intense. She extended her hand to Zane. I'm Raven, by the way. Thanks for having my sisters back. Zane shook her hand, his demeanor instantly warming. Pleasure to meet you, Raven. Amara speaks highly of you. But Amara barely registered the introduction, her mind spinning with questions: the watch, the resources Zane had mentioned so confidently, the way he had faced down Lucas with the calm assurance of someone accustomed to power. Amara. Zane's voice broke through her thoughts. Are you okay? She looked up at him, really looked, seeing beyond the handsome face to the secrets that lurked behind his eyes. Is Lucas right about the watch? Zane glanced down at his wrist, a flash of regret crossing his features. Yes. Who are you, Zane? The question hung between them, weighted with everything unsaid. Really? He held her gaze, something like resignation settling in his expression. I think it's time we had that talk I promised. Raven looked between them, confusion evident. Am I missing something? Zane has some explaining to do, Amara said, not taking her eyes off him, about who he really is. And in that moment, Looking into Zane's eyes-troubled, yet still so full of warmth when they gazed at her, Amara knew that whatever revelations awaited, they would fundamentally change everything between them. The question was whether that change would strengthen the fragile, beautiful connection they'd formed or shatter it beyond repair. Chapter 6. Sanctuary Threatened. The drive back to the cabin was silent. Zane's knuckles were white on the steering wheel, while Amara stared out the window, processing what she'd learned. "My full name is Declan Brooks Harrington," he finally confessed when they arrived. "I'm the founder and CEO of Harrington Sustainable Technologies." The revelation hit Amara hard. HST was a multi-billion-dollar corporation whose innovations had revolutionized clean energy globally. She'd read about the reclusive billionaire who'd withdrawn from public life 3 years ago. "Why the deception?" she asked, hurt evident in her voice. "I've been living this way for nearly 2 years. Away from people who only want me for what I can give them," Zane explained. "When I saw you at the church, I acted on impulse. I meant to tell you, but I was afraid of losing what we were building." Before Amara could fully process this, a knock came at the cabin door. A harried-looking man in a suit stood on the porch. Omar Patel, his chief of staff, the man introduced himself. "Sir, there's been a breach. Paparazzi tracked your location through the cafe incident. They're 20 minutes out." He handed Zane a tablet displaying the headline, "Billionaire Playboy Declan Harrington's Secret Wedding to Jilted Bride." "We need to go to the island," Zane said grimly. An hour later, they arrived at Zane's private island retreat, a surprisingly modest beach house with breathtaking ocean views. "This is my real home here," Zane explained. "The mansion on the other side of the island is for show. Only a few people know this place exists." That evening, on the deck watching the sunset, Amara allowed her fingers to intertwine with his. "I'm still angry," she admitted, "but I'm trying to understand. These past days with you have been the happiest of my life," Zane replied. "Because you saw me, really saw me. Beyond my wealth or name." The next morning, they went snorkeling in the crystal waters. As they returned to shore, laughing, Amara doubled over with a sudden sharp pain. "Something's not right," she gasped, noticing blood staining her swimsuit. Zane carried her to the house and called his doctor, who arrived by helicopter. The diagnosis was devastating, an ectopic pregnancy. "The doctor says it was very early stage." Zane explained after the emergency surgery. "The pregnancy failed to implant correctly. You'll recover fully, but need rest." "Our baby," Amara whispered, grief washing over her for something she hadn't known existed. Zane's eyes glistened with tears as he gently lay beside her on the bed, careful of her surgical wounds. "I was so scared," he admitted, holding her close. "I've never been so terrified." "I'm glad I'm here with you," Amara said softly. "I'm still processing everything else, but being here with you feels right." His smile was radiant as he kissed her tenderly. "Rest now. I'll be here when you wake up." As Amara drifted to sleep in Zane's arms, she realized that somewhere between their impulsive wedding and this moment, she had fallen in love with him, billionaire or not, and for now, that was the only truth that mattered. Chapter 7. Truth laid bare. The drive back to Zane's cabin was tense, the revelation of his true identity hanging between them like a physical barrier. Amara stared out the window, her mind racing with questions and confusions. How could the gentle, thoughtful man she'd fallen for be the same Declan Harrington whose face occasionally graced business magazines? The billionaire who had revolutionized sustainable energy across the globe. "Say something," Zane finally said, his voice low and strained. "Please." Amara turned to study his profile, searching for signs of the stranger she'd apparently married. "I don't know what to say, Zane. Or should I call you Declan now?" Pain flashed across his features. "I've always been Zane to the people who matter. Declan is for boardrooms and press releases. And which am I getting? The real you or the carefully crafted image?" He pulled the car to the side of the road, cutting the engine and turning to face her fully. "Everything between us has been real, Amara. Every word, every touch, every moment. The only thing I concealed was my last name and bank balance." "That's a pretty significant thing to conceal," she countered, though the naked vulnerability in his eyes made her heart ache despite her anger. "I know." He ran a hand through his dark curls, a gesture she now recognized as a sign of his distress. "When you live with the kind of wealth I have, you learn quickly that most people don't see you. They see what you can do for them, what you can give them. Is that what you think of me? That I'm after your money? Hurt colored her words. No. He reached for her hand, and after a moment's hesitation, she allowed him to take it. That's why I didn't tell you. With you, for the first time in years, I was just Xananot, the CEO, not the billionaire, not the eligible bachelor the media loves to speculate about, just a man falling for an extraordinary woman. The sincerity in his voice was undeniable. But Amara pulled her hand away, needing physical distance to think clearly. Take me back to the cabin. I need time to process this. The rest of the drive passed in silence. When they arrived, Amara went straight to the guest room she'd never used, needing space to sort through the tangled emotions coursing through her. Through the window, she watched as Zane made call after call, his posture radiating tension as he paced the deck. An hour later, a knock came at her door. She opened it to find Zane standing there, his expression a mixture of regret and determination. I've made arrangements, he said, to mitigate the press situation. What press situation? Amara asked, confused. In answer, Zane handed her his tablet. On the screen was a gossip site with the headline, Billionaire Playboy Declan Harrington's Secret Wedding to Jilted Bride. Below was a photo of them leaving the cafe, Zane's hand protectively at the small of her back, and beside it a picture clearly taken at the church. Someone had sold the shot of their impromptu ceremony. Oh God, Amara whispered, scanning the article, which described her as either a gold digger or a victim of Harrington's well-documented obsession with saving beautiful women. It gets worse, Zane said grimly, taking back the tablet and scrolling to another site. This one speculated that their marriage was a publicity stunt, suggesting Amara had been paid to participate in a billionaire's bizarre fantasy. How did they find us? She asked, sinking onto the edge of the bed. The cafe, most likely. Someone recognized me. Tipped off the press. Zane's jaw tightened. It was careless of me to go out in public. I should have known better. Is this your life? Always hiding? Always watching what you say and do? It has been, since I withdrew from public view 3 years ago. He sat beside her, careful to leave space between them. But it doesn't have to be yours. He sat beside her, careful to leave space between them. I've contacted my legal team. We can have the marriage annulled quietly, with a generous settlement to ensure your financial independence. You can return to your life, free from all of this. Amara stared at him, stunned by the offer. Is that what you want? What I want, Zane said, his voice rough with emotion, is to wake up beside you every morning, to hear you play the piano while I make coffee, to build a life with you that has nothing to do with my wealth or your incredible talent, and everything to do with the way we fit together. He swallowed hard. But I won't trap you in a life you didn't choose. The raw honesty in his words touched something deep within Amara. Before she could respond, his phone rang. Glancing at the screen, he grimaced. I need to take this. It's my security chief. He stood, moving toward the door. Think about what I said, Amara. Whatever you decide, I'll respect it. Left alone, Amara paced the room, her thoughts chaotic. Part of her wanted to run, to escape the complications of being tied to one of the wealthiest men in the country, but another part, perhaps the stronger part, couldn't imagine walking away from the connection they'd forged. Through the window, she watched as Zane spoke on the phone, his expression darkening by the minute. When he ended the call, he stood motionless on the deck, staring out at the lake with such desolation that it made her chest ache. Without conscious decision, Amara found herself moving through the cabin, out onto the deck. Zane turned at the sound of the door sliding open, his eyes guarded, yet hopeful. Photographers have been spotted heading this way, he said before she could speak. We have maybe 30 minutes before they find the cabin. Then we should leave, Amara replied simply. Relief washed over his features. Thank you. I promise, once we're somewhere secure, we can talk properly. Figure out what you want to do next. 20 minutes later, they were in a sleek helicopter rising above the tree line, headed toward what Zane described as a more secure location. Amara watched through the window as the stunning landscape unfolded beneath them, mountains giving way to coastline, then open ocean. Where exactly are we going? She asked, raising her voice over the noise of the rotors. My island, Zane replied. A hint of nervousness in his expression. It's completely private, secure from intrusion. We'll have space to talk there. Amara raised an eyebrow. You have an island? Of course you do. A fleeting smile touched his lips. If it helps, it's a very small island. Despite everything, Amara found herself smiling back. There was something so fundamentally Zayn about his response, self-deprecating, honest, without pretense. The island, when they reached it, was indeed small but breathtakingly beautiful, a jewel of white sand beaches and lush greenery rising from crystal-clear turquoise waters. As the helicopter descended, Amara spotted two structures. One, an impressive modern mansion perched at the highest point. The other, a more modest beach house nestled among palm trees. To her surprise, they landed near the smaller building. Welcome to Sanctuary, Zayn said as he helped her from the helicopter. My actual home, not the showpiece on the hill that my board members expect. The beach house, while certainly luxurious by normal standards, was nothing like the ostentatious display of wealth Amara had expected. Built from sustainable materials with an indoor-outdoor design that maximized the stunning ocean views, it felt warm, inviting, a place designed for living, not impressing. It's beautiful, she admitted as he led her inside. It's the only place I feel truly myself, Zayn said softly. Besides, when I'm with you. The simple honesty of the statement disarmed her. Amara wandered to the wall of windows facing the ocean, watching as the helicopter took off again, disappearing over the horizon. So, we're alone here? She asked. Completely. There's a staff house on the other side of the island, but I've given everyone the week off. Zayn stood behind her, close enough that she could feel his warmth, but not touching her. No one will disturb us. You have my word. Amara turned to face him, really seeing him for perhaps the first time since the revelation of his identity. Without the distractions of the outside world, she could focus on what mattered to the man himself, not his wealth or status. I need you to tell me everything, Zayn, she said firmly. No more secrets, no more half-truths. If there's any chance for us, I need complete honesty. Relief washed over his features. Does that mean there could be a chance for us? I'm here, aren't I? She replied, surprised by the surge of tenderness she felt at the hope in his eyes. Now talk. For the next 2 hours, sitting on the deck with the ocean breeze caressing their skin, Zayn told her everything. How he'd built his company from a dorm room idea to a global enterprise. How his passion for sustainable technology had driven every innovation. How the pressure and isolation of extreme wealth had slowly corroded his ability to trust, to form genuine connections. And finally, the darkest chapter, how his former fiancée, Tara Summers, had been secretly recording their intimate conversations to sell to tabloids, planning to divorce him after the wedding to claim half his fortune. I discovered it by accident, Zayn said, pain-etching lines around his eyes. Found the recordings on her phone when I was looking for a photo she'd taken of us. Confronted her the night before our rehearsal dinner. What happened? Amara asked, drawn into his story despite her lingering hurt. She denied it at first. Then, when I showed her the evidence, He swallowed hard. She laughed. Said I was an easy mark. Too trusting. Too eager to believe someone could love me for myself. Amara's heart constricted at the raw anguish in his voice. That's cruel. The next day, she disappeared. Emptied one of my private accounts, $14 million, vanished. His hands tightened into fists on his knees. The press had a field day, insinuated I'd done something to her, that I was responsible for her disappearance. But you weren't, Amara said, a statement rather than a question. No. His eyes met hers, vulnerable yet steady. But the speculation was enough to trigger a board investigation, to put my company at risk. So I made a choice. I withdrew from public life, let my CFO become the face of the company, and created this sanctuary. He gestured to the island around them, where I could remember who I was beneath the billions, the brand, the speculation. Understanding dawned on Amara. That's why you were living in the cabin. Why you let me believe you were just a writer. I am a writer, he said with a small smile. Environmental articles. Published under a pseudonym. But yes, the cabin was part of my recovery, I suppose. A way to live more authentically. Away from people who only saw my wealth. Until I saw you standing alone at that altar, Zayn corrected, looking so broken yet so strong, I acted on impulse, did something completely out of character, married a stranger. She supplied. The first real choice I'd made in years that had nothing to do with business strategy or public perception. His gaze was intense, searching, and I've never regretted it for a moment. The sincerity in his voice, the vulnerability in his eyes, cracked something open in Amara's chest. She reached across the space between them, taking his hand in hers. "I believe you," she said simply. Relief washed over his features, followed by cautious hope. "Where does that leave us, Amara?" She looked out at the ocean, gathering her thoughts. "I'm still processing everything. The man I've been falling for turned out to be someone more complicated than I imagined." She turned back to him. "But I think, at your core, you're still the Zane who held me when I cried, who listened to my music like it was precious, who made me feel seen." Zane rose, tugging her gently to her feet and into his arms. The familiar scent of him sandalwood and something uniquely his enveloped her, comforting despite her lingering uncertainties. "I want to deserve you," he murmured against her hair. "The money, the company, none of it matters compared to this." "To us?" Amara pulled back slightly to study his face. "It does matter, though. It's part of who you are, for better or worse, and it's going to affect our lives if we—" She hesitated. "If we stay together." "If?" Zane's voice held a note of fear she'd never heard before. In answer, Amara rose on her tiptoes and pressed her lips to his. A gentle kiss that deepened as his arms tightened around her, drawing her closer until there was no space between them. When they finally parted, both breathless, Amara rested her forehead against his chest, feeling the rapid beat of his heart beneath her cheek. "I want to try," she whispered. "I want to see if what we've found together is strong enough to withstand the complications." Zane's hand came up to cradle the back of her head, his touch reverent. "I'll do whatever it takes, Amara. Change my life. Step back from the company. Anything to make this work." "No," she said firmly, looking up at him. "I don't want you to change who you are or what you've built. I just want honesty between us. Complete transparency." "You have it," he promised. "No more secrets." As the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson, they sat together on the beach, Zane's arm around Amara's shoulders, her head resting against him. The silence between them was comfortable now, the tension of the day giving way to a tentative peace. "What do we do about the press?" Amara finally asked. "About the lies they're spreading?" Zane sighed, his breath stirring her curls. "We have options. My PR team can issue a statement, control the narrative, or we can stay hidden until something more interesting comes along. And if I want to go back to my life, my clients need me. We'll find a way," he assured her. "Security, privacy measures, whatever you need to feel safe and continue your work." Amara nodded, considering. Then another thought struck her. "Your company, Harrington Sustainable Technologies, that's what HST stands for. The company that's bringing clean water systems to developing countries. One of our major initiatives," Zane confirmed. "My father donated to your foundation last year," Amara said with a surprised laugh. It was a stretch for him financially, but he believed so strongly in the mission. Something like wonder dawned in Zane's eyes. "Your father supported my foundation?" He said it was the most transparent charity he'd researched, that every dollar actually went to the cause instead of administrative bloat. Amara shook her head at the irony. "He'd be thrilled to know I married the founder and terrified his daughter married someone with my reputation," Zane added ruefully. "We'll fix that," Amara said with sudden determination. "Clear your name. Tell the truth about Tara. I'm not letting you hide in the shadows anymore, Zane." He stared at her, clearly taken aback by her fierce advocacy. "It's not that simple. Coming forward means opening old wounds, facing scrutiny. Being true to yourself," Amara interrupted. "Living authentically, like you've been trying to do at the cabin, but for real this time, not just in hiding." Their eyes locked, a silent communication passing between them, challenge, consideration, acceptance. "Okay," Zane said finally. "We'll do it your way. Together." The word hung between them, full of promise and possibility. Together. Despite the complications, despite the revelations and uncertainties. They had found something rare and precious, a connection that transcended circumstance, that saw beyond wealth or status to the person beneath. As darkness fell, the only sound, the gentle lapping of waves against the shore, Zayn turned to Amara with a question in his eyes. Without words, she answered, rising and taking his hand, leading him back toward the beach house. Tonight, there would be no separate rooms, no careful distance maintained. Tonight was for reconnection, for reaffirming what they'd found in each other. Inside, bathed in the silver light of the moon streaming through the windows, they undressed each other slowly, reverently. Each touch an exploration, each kiss a promise. When they came together on the wide bed, skin against skin, it was different from before, deeper, more honest, more complete. Zayn worshipped her body with a devotion that brought tears to Amara's eyes, his hands and lips mapping every curve, every sensitive spot, as though committing her to memory. And when he finally joined his body with hers, Amara gasped at the perfect rightness of it, at how completely they fit together. "I love you," Zayn whispered against her lips as they moved as one. "All of you, your strength, your talent, your beautiful heart." Tears spilled from Amara's eyes, overwhelmed by the emotion of the moment, by the truth she saw in his gaze. "I love you too," she whispered back. "The real you, Zayn Brooks Harrington, all of you." Their release, when it came, was simultaneous. Powerful, a breaking and remaking that left them both trembling in its aftermath. Wrapped in each other's arms, breathing gradually slowing, they drifted toward sleep, secure in the knowledge that whatever challenges awaited them, they would face them together. No more secrets, no more hiding. Amara murmured, as sleep began to claim her. Zayn's lips pressed against her temple. "I'm glad you married me that day, even though it was crazy." His arms tightened around her. "Best impulsive decision of my life." As moonlight bathed their entwined forms, the truth of those words settled over them like a blessing. Sometimes, the most unexpected paths led to the most perfect destinations, and sometimes, a broken heart could find its missing piece in the most unlikely of places. Chapter 8. Lost Without You Morning. Sunlight streamed through the large windows of the beach house, painting golden patterns across the tangled sheets. Amara awoke slowly, her body pleasantly sore from the night of passionate reconciliation. Zayn's side of the bed was empty, but she could hear the soft melody of a piano drifting through the open door. Wrapping herself in a silk robe she found hanging in the bathroom, Amara followed the music through the beach house. In the light-filled room overlooking the ocean, she found Zayn seated at a grand piano, his fingers moving over the keys with surprising skill. "You told me you couldn't play," she said softly. Zayn turned, a smile warming his face when he saw her. "I said my mother played. I didn't say I couldn't." "Another omission?" Amara asked. But there was no accusation in her tone. "A small one," he admitted. "I'm nowhere near your level. Just picked up the basics as a child." Amara crossed the room and slid onto the bench beside him, their bodies touching from shoulder to hip. "Play for me." He continued the simple, haunting melody, occasionally hitting a wrong note but playing with genuine feeling. "My mother composed this," he explained. "She never published her music, just played for herself, and for me." "It's beautiful," Amara said, resting her head on his shoulder. When the piece ended, Zayn turned to press a kiss to her forehead. "Good morning." "Good morning," she replied, lifting her face to meet his lips properly. The kiss deepened quickly, hands beginning to wander until Zayn reluctantly pulled away. "As much as I'd love to continue this," he said, his voice husky, "we need to talk about next steps." Reality intruded on their peaceful moment. "The press situation," Amara sighed. "Yes," Zayn confirmed. "My PR team has been monitoring the coverage. It's not great." He led her to the kitchen, where breakfast was already prepared: fresh fruit, pastries, coffee brewed to perfection. As they ate, Zayn showed her the latest headlines on his tablet. Billionaire's bizarre wedding. Who is Amara Valentine? And Harrington's mysterious bride. Gold digger or victim? "They're awful," Amara murmured, pushing the tablet away. "This is the world I've been hiding from," Zayn said grimly. "But you were right last night. It's time to stop hiding. What do you suggest?" "An exclusive interview," he proposed. With someone reputable, we control the narrative, tell our story on our terms. Amara considered this. And what about Tara? The allegations? It's time to clear my name, Zane said, determination in his voice. I've spent 3 years protecting a woman who tried to destroy me. No more. His hand covered hers on the table, and Amara turned her palm up to interlace their fingers. I'm with you, she assured him. Whatever you decide. The relief in his eyes was palpable. There's something else we need to discuss, he said, his expression growing serious. Our marriage? Amara's heart skipped. What about it? Legally, it's binding, Zane explained. The minister filed the paperwork that day. But I want you to know that you still have choices. We can have it annulled, or... He hesitated. Or we can stay married. See where this takes us. The vulnerability in his eyes touched Amara deeply. Are you asking me to be your wife for real this time? I'm asking if you'll consider it, Zane replied carefully. Not because of how we started, but because of what we found. Amara thought about the whirlwind of the past week from abandoned bride to this moment, deciding whether to commit to a man she'd known for just days. Yet in those days, she'd experienced more genuine connection, more honest emotion, than in 6 years with Lucas. I'm not ready to say goodbye to what we have, she said finally. So yes, let's stay married. See where it leads. Joy illuminated Zane's face, making him look younger, freer. He leaned across the table to kiss her, a kiss that spoke of gratitude and promise and passionate intent. After breakfast, Zane made several calls, setting in motion their plan to address the media situation. An interview was arranged with Harmony Quinn, a respected journalist known for her fairness and integrity. They would meet in 2 days at a neutral location. That gives us time to prepare, Zane said as he ended the final call, and to enjoy some peace before facing the storm. What did you have in mind? Amara asked, a smile playing at her lips. His answering grin was boyish and suggestive. How do you feel about exploring the island? There's a waterfall on the north side that's worth seeing. The day passed in a beautiful haze of discovery both of the island's natural wonders and of each other. They swam in the crystal waters of a hidden cove, made love on a secluded beach, talked for hours about their dreams and fears and hopes for the future. By evening, exhausted and sun-kissed, they returned to the beach house to find Zane's phone blinking with urgent messages. Go ahead, Amara encouraged when he hesitated. It might be important. His expression darkened as he read the messages. It's Omar, my chief of staff. There's been a development. What kind of development? Amara asked, concern rising at his tone. Tara, Zane said simply. She's resurfaced. Amara's breath caught. Where? Paris. She gave an interview to French Vogue, claiming she fled our relationship because of my controlling and manipulative behavior. His jaw tightened. She's trying to get ahead of our story. Can she do that, after stealing from you? She's claiming the money was a settlement I gave her to keep quiet about alleged abuse. Zane ran a hand through his hair in frustration. It's completely false, but she's calculated her move carefully. With the current climate, her accusations will get traction. Amara moved to his side, placing a steadying hand on his arm. We fight back with the truth. With evidence. Evidence I was planning to reveal strategically, Zane sighed. Now we're on the defensive. Then we move up the interview. Amara suggested, call Harmony Quinn. See if she can meet us tomorrow. Zane looked at her with newfound respect. You'd be ready for that? To face the cameras so soon? No, Amara admitted honestly. But sometimes you don't get to choose your timing. Sometimes you just have to stand and fight. Pride shone in Zane's eyes as he pulled her into his arms. Have I told you lately how extraordinary you are, Amara Valentine Harrington? The hyphenated name sent a thrill through her. Not in the last hour, she teased. An oversight I'll have to remedy, he murmured against her lips. Later that night, as they lay tangled together in the aftermath of passionate lovemaking, Zane's phone rang again. He answered on speaker, putting a finger to his lips to signal Amara to stay quiet. Mr. Harrington, came a woman's smooth voice. Tara Summers here. I think it's time we talked. Zane's body tensed beside Amara's. I have nothing to say to you, Tara. Don't be hasty, Tara replied, her tone falsely sweet. I'm offering you a deal. $10 million. and I retract my statements about your difficult nature. You mean your lies? Zayn countered coldly. My truth, Tara corrected. But I'm willing to find a new truth for the right price. Disgust crossed Zayn's features. You're blackmailing me. I prefer to think of it as negotiating, Tara said with a chilling laugh. I've seen the photos of your new bride. She's lovely, exotic. Does she know what you're really like, Declan? Does she know what happens when you don't get your way? Fury blazed in Zayn's eyes, but Amara squeezed his hand, silently urging caution. What I'm like, Zayn said carefully, is done with your games. The recordings you made of our private conversations, the ones you planned to sell to tabloids, I still have them, along with the evidence of your theft. A pause. You're bluffing. Those were on my private server. The server my security team traced to the Cayman Islands. Zayn's voice was deadly calm. I've had those recordings for 3 years, Tara. I chose not to use them out of a misguided sense of decency. That ends now. Another, longer pause. What do you want? A full retraction, Zayn demanded. Public acknowledgement of your lies. Return of the stolen funds. Or what? Tara challenged, though her voice had lost its confidence. Or I release everything, the recordings where you discuss your plan to marry the billionaire, divorce the idiot, the financial trail, everything. You wouldn't, Tara hissed. It would humiliate you, too. I can live with humiliation, Zayn replied evenly. Can you live with prison? The call ended abruptly, leaving a heavy silence in its wake. Will she do it? Amara asked quietly. Retract her statements? I don't know, Zayn admitted. Tara is calculating. She'll weigh her options carefully. And the recordings? Do you really have them? Zayn nodded, pulling Amara closer. I never wanted to use them. It felt vindictive-y, but I kept them as insurance. Smart, Amara murmured, tracing patterns on his chest. Not smart enough to avoid this mess in the first place, he sighed. I'm sorry you've been dragged into it. I'm not, Amara said firmly. If you hadn't gone through this with Tara, you might never have been at that wedding, never have seen me standing alone at the altar. The truth of her words seemed to sink in, shifting Zayn's perspective visibly. Everything led to you, he realized, wonder in his voice. And everything led me to you, she replied simply. Morning brought news. Tara had deleted her social media accounts and withdrawn from public view. The interview with Harmony Quinn was confirmed for that afternoon at a private estate on the mainland that offered both security and appropriate backdrops. As they prepared to leave the island sanctuary, Zayn noticed Amara's nervousness as she dressed in clothes he'd had delivered for the interview, a simple but elegant emerald dress that complemented her complexion perfectly. Having second thoughts? He asked gently. Not about us, she clarified quickly. Just, I'm a music therapist, Zayn. I work with traumatized children. I've never been in the spotlight. Understanding dawned in his eyes. We can postpone. Find another way. No. Amara shook her head, determination firming her resolve. I just need you to promise me something. Anything. He vowed immediately. Promise me that no matter what happens with the press, with Tara, with your company, we'll keep this real. She gestured between them. This connection. This honesty. Zayn crossed the room and took her face in his hands with infinite tenderness. I promise, Amara Valentine Harrington. Whatever comes, we face it together. No more hiding. No more pretending. He sealed the promise with a kiss that left her breathless and certain, ready to face whatever lay ahead, not as the abandoned bride or the billionaire's mystery wife, but as a woman who had found unexpected love in the midst of chaos, and who intended to fight for that love with everything she had. As the helicopter lifted off from the island, carrying them toward an uncertain reception but a certain future together, Amara looked back at the beach house that had sheltered their reconciliation, their truths, their passion. Whatever happened next, they had this foundation of love built not on fantasy or convenience, but on seeing and accepting each other completely. And that, Amara realized as Zayn's hand found hers, was worth fighting for. Chapter 9. Reaching for Reconciliation. The mainland estate chosen for the interview was a masterpiece of architectural elegance, all clean lines and soaring windows framing the breathtaking coastal views. Under different circumstances, Amara might have appreciated its beauty. Now, seeing the small production crew setting up cameras and lighting, her stomach knotted with anxiety. "You don't have to do this," Zane said softly, his hand warm and steady at the small of her back. "I can handle it alone." Amara drew strength from his touch, his unwavering support. "We're in this together," she reminded him. "Besides, if I don't appear, they'll just speculate more about who I am and what I'm hiding." Pride shone in Zane's eyes as he pressed a kiss to her temple. "Have I mentioned lately how much I love you?" "You might have said something about it," she replied with a small smile, "but I don't mind hearing it again." Before he could respond, a tall, elegant woman approached them, Harmony Quinn, the journalist who'd been chosen for the exclusive interview. In person, she radiated the same calm intelligence that made her respected in her field. "Mr. Harrington, Miss Valentine," she greeted them, shaking their hands. "Thank you for choosing me for this conversation." "We appreciate your reputation for fairness," Zane replied, his public persona sliding into place more formal than the man Amara had come to know, but still authentic in its way. "I don't do hit pieces or puff pieces," Harmony assured them. "Just honest journalism, which means I will ask difficult questions." "We expect nothing less," Amara said, finding her voice. Harmony's gaze shifted to her, assessing but not unkind. "Your story has captured public imagination, Miss Valentine, the abandoned bride who married a billionaire the same day. It reads like fiction." "Truth is often stranger," Amara acknowledged. The interview setup was deliberately intimate sitting area arranged before floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the ocean, mimicking a casual conversation rather than a formal interrogation. As they took their seats, Zane's hand found Amara's, their fingers interlacing naturally. "We'll begin recording in 5 minutes," Harmony told them, reviewing her notes. "The interview will air tomorrow evening, edited only for time constraints. You'll have no prior review of the questions or footage." "Understood," Zane nodded, his thumb tracing circles on Amara's hand, a small gesture of comfort that centered her. When the cameras began rolling, Harmony started with the circumstances of their meeting and impromptu marriage. Amara found herself relaxing as she recounted the story. The initial shock and heartbreak of Lucas's abandonment, the unexpected appearance of Zane and his unusual proposal. "What made you say yes?" Harmony asked her. "To marry a complete stranger?" Amara considered the question carefully. "In that moment, standing alone at the altar with 300 people watching, I felt like I was drowning. Zane offered something I desperately needed: dignity, a way to rewrite the narrative of that day." She glanced at him, something warm unfurling in her chest at his attentive expression. It wasn't rational, but it felt right. "And you, Mr. Harrington, what compelled you to propose marriage to a woman you'd never met?" Zane's answer was direct, his eyes never leaving Amara. "I saw someone extraordinary, someone strong enough to stand before a church full of people after being abandoned. Someone with fire in her eyes despite her pain. I acted on instinct for the first time in years. Some might call it impulsive," Harmony pressed. "Others might question your motives." "It was absolutely impulsive," Zane agreed with a small smile. "As for my motives, I had no agenda beyond helping someone I felt drawn to in an inexplicable way." The interview progressed to more difficult territory: Zane's withdrawal from public life, the speculation about Tara Summers' disappearance, the allegations that had resurfaced. "Miss Summers claims she fled your relationship because of controlling behavior," Harmony stated. "How do you respond?" Zane's expression darkened, but his voice remained steady. "With the truth. Tara Summers methodically infiltrated my life, recorded our private conversations with the intention of selling them to tabloids, and stole $14 million before disappearing. I have evidence of all of this, which I've provided to the appropriate authorities." "Why haven't you shared this evidence before now?" Harmony asked. "Pride, partly," Zane admitted. "The humiliation of being so thoroughly deceived. It was easier to withdraw than to expose that vulnerability publicly. And honestly, I didn't want to give her more attention, more power over my life." "What changed?" Harmony's gaze moved between them. "I did," Amara answered, surprising herself with her certainty. "I reminded Zane that living authentically means facing difficult truths, not hiding from them." Harmony's focus shifted fully to Amara. You've known Mr. Harrington for only a week. How can you be confident in your assessment of his character? Because I knew Zane before I knew Declan Harrington, Amara replied. I fell in love with a man who listened when I played music, who held me through nightmares, who really saw me when I felt invisible. Her voice strengthened. That man is real, regardless of his bank balance or public persona. Something shifted in Harmony's expression, a professional detachment giving way to genuine interest. You're saying you've fallen in love? Yes, Amara confirmed simply. It wasn't part of the plan, but it happened. And you, Mr. Harrington? Zane's answer was immediate, his eyes holding Amara's. Completely, irrevocably. The raw honesty of the moment seemed to affect even Harmony, who paused before continuing. What happens now? With the allegations? With your unusual marriage? We face everything together, Zane replied. The truth about Tara Summers will emerge. I've provided irrefutable evidence to counteract her false narrative. As for our marriage, he glanced at Amara, seeking confirmation. We're staying married. Amara completed for him, not because of how it started, but because of what we found together. By the time the cameras stopped rolling, Amara felt emotionally drained, yet oddly lighter, as though a weight had been lifted. Harmony approached them as the crew packed up equipment. That was unexpected, she admitted. I've interviewed hundreds of public figures, and genuine emotion is rare. She looked between them. Whatever your unusual beginning, what you have now appears very real. It is, Zane confirmed, his arm slipping around Amara's waist. The piece will air tomorrow at 8, Harmony informed them. Prepare yourselves. No matter how fairly I present this, the public reaction will be intense. After Harmony departed, Zane led Amara to a private terrace overlooking the ocean. You were magnificent, he said, drawing her into his arms. So strong, so authentic. I just told the truth, Amara replied, resting her head against his chest, listening to the steady beat of his heart. That we found something real in the midst of chaos. We did, Zane agreed, tilting her face up to his. Something worth fighting for. His kiss was tender, reverent, filled with promise, a physical manifestation of everything they'd declared publicly. Amara melted into him, allowing the tension of the day to dissolve in the certainty of his embrace. Take me home, she whispered against his lips. Zane's eyes darkened with desire and something deeper, more permanent. The island? The cabin? Wherever you are, Amara clarified, surprising herself with the truth of it. That's home now. The helicopter ride back to the island passed in comfortable silence, their hands linked, occasional glances conveying more than words could express. As the chopper descended toward the beach house, Amara noticed a change lights illuminating the path from the landing pad. Flowers arranged on the deck, candles visible through the windows. What's all this? She asked as they disembarked. Zane looked uncharacteristically nervous. I asked Omar to arrange something while we were gone. A proper celebration. Inside, the beach house had been transformed candles creating pools of golden light, white roses and orchids adorning every surface, a table set for two with fine china and crystal. It's beautiful, Amara breathed, turning in a slow circle to take in the romantic scene. Not as beautiful as you, Zane replied, his eyes never leaving her. Amara, today you told the world you're choosing to stay married to Minot because of circumstances or obligation, but because of love. I meant every word, she assured him. I know, he said softly. And I want to give you something I couldn't that first day at the church, a proper proposal, a proper choice. Amara's breath caught as Zane knelt before her, taking her hand in his. From his pocket, he produced not the ostentatious diamond she might have expected from a billionaire, but a simple band of rose gold set with a small moonstone that captured the light in opalescent flashes. Amara Valentine, he said, his voice rough with emotion. I married you on impulse, but I choose you with complete certainty. Will you continue this journey with me? Will you be my wife, not just in name, but in every way that matters? Tears blurred Amara's vision as she nodded. Yes, she whispered. 1,000 times, yes. Zane slipped the ring onto her finger alongside his grandmother's band, then rose to gather her in his arms. His kiss was both tender and hungry, a contradiction that embodied everything about their unlikely love story, impulsive yet enduring, passionate yet profound. Later, after a candlelit dinner where they talked of future plans and shared dreams, they moved to the bedroom, where rose petals created a fragrant path to the bed. Their lovemaking was unhurried, a deliberate exploration of pleasure and connection, each touch an affirmation of the commitment they'd made. As they lay entwined in the aftermath, Amara traced the contours of Zayn's face with gentle fingers. "I never imagined this," she confessed. "A week ago, I thought my heart was broken beyond repair. And now," Zayn asked, turning to press a kiss to her palm, "now I understand that what I had with Lucas wasn't real love," Amara replied. "It was comfortable, predictable, safe, but it lacked this depth, this understanding. This is just the beginning," Zayn promised, drawing her closer. "We have a lifetime to discover each other, to build something extraordinary together." Morning brought the practical considerations they'd postponed. Over breakfast on the deck, Zayn presented options for their immediate future. "We can stay here on the island as long as you like," he offered, "or return to the cabin, though the press may have found it by now." Or, Amara prompted when he hesitated, "or we could go home, actual home in the city." His expression was carefully neutral, giving her space to consider. "It's secure, private, and it would allow you to resume your work with your clients." The thought of returning to her music therapy practice sent a surge of longing through Amara. As magical as their island sanctuary was, she missed her work, the fulfillment it brought. "I'd like that," she decided. "To see your home, to get back to my clients." Relief and happiness brightened Zayn's features. "I was hoping you'd say that. There's something else I want to show you there. Something I've been working on that I think will interest you." His mysterious smile intrigued her, but Amara didn't press for details, content to let him surprise her. They spent one final day on the island, swimming in the crystal waters, making love on secluded beaches, creating memories to sustain them when they returned to the complications of real life. As the sun set on their last evening, painting the sky in impossible shades of pink and gold, Zayn led Amara to a hidden cove where a small boat awaited. "One last adventure," he explained, helping her aboard. The boat took them to a tiny, uninhabited islet visible from their beach, crowned with a single ancient banyan tree. As they climbed the gentle slope, Amara gasped at the sight that awaited a small table set with champagne and strawberries, surrounded by hundreds of twinkling fairy lights, strung through the banyan's sprawling branches. "How did you arrange this?" she asked, awestruck. "I have my methods," Zayn replied with a secretive smile. "I wanted our last night here to be unforgettable." Under the canopy of lights and stars, they sipped champagne and fed each other strawberries, talking of everything and nothing, planning their future together. When Zayn produced a small portable speaker and soft music filled the air, he drew Amara to her feet. "Dance with me," he requested softly. In his arms, swaying to the gentle melody with the ocean as their witness, Amara felt a sense of perfect rightness, of coming home after a long journey. Whatever challenges awaited them in the outside world, media scrutiny, legal battles with Tara, the complications of merging their lives, this moment, this connection, would be their foundation. "Thank you," she whispered against his chest. "For what?" Zayn asked, his hand tracing gentle patterns on her back. "For marrying a stranger at the altar," Amara replied, looking up at him with a smile that held all her love, all her certainty. "For being the best decision I never planned to make." His answering kiss spoke of forever, of promises kept and adventures to come. And as the moon rose over their private paradise, casting silver light on their entwined forms, both knew with absolute certainty that what had begun as an impulsive act of kindness had transformed into the greatest love story either could have imagined, unexpected, unplanned, and utterly perfect in its imperfection. Chapter 10. Love Beyond Facades. The morning of their vow renewal ceremony dawned perfect and clear, just 2 months after their fateful first meeting. Amara stood before the mirror in the beachside cottage they'd chosen for the occasion, different from both the island and the cabin. A new beginning. "You look breathtaking," Raven said, adjusting the simple crown of white orchids nestled in Amara's curls. Unlike her first wedding, Amara had chosen an elegant but unfussy Gaunivari silk that flowed like water over her curves, shoulders bare, no elaborate train or veil, She wore no jewelry except the 2 rings Zane had given her, his grandmother's gold band and the moonstone engagement ring. "Are you nervous?" Raven asked, meeting her sister's eyes in the mirror. "Not even a little," Amara replied with perfect certainty. "I've never been more sure of anything." A knock at the door revealed their mother, elegant in deep purple, her eyes bright with unshed tears. "Oh, Amara," she breathed. "You're radiant." "Thank you for supporting us, Mom," Amara said, embracing her. "I know how strange this all must seem." "Strange? Yes," her mother agreed with a soft laugh. "But when I see how that man looks at you, I understand now." The cottage door opened again, revealing her father in a wheelchair, still recovering from his heart surgery, but determined to walk his daughter down the aisle properly this time. "They're ready for you, baby girl," he said, his voice gruff with emotion. Outside, the small gathering of family and closest friends waited on the beach, where an arbor of white roses and greenery had been erected. No media, no spectacle, just the people who mattered most. And standing beneath that arbor, looking more handsome than any man had a right to, was Zane. He wore no tie, no formal suit, just crisp white linen pants and a matching shirt, his curls tousled by the ocean breeze, his eyes fixed on her with such naked adoration that Amara's heart threatened to burst from joy. Her father took her arm, rising carefully from his wheelchair for the short walk. "I believe in this marriage," he whispered to her, "which is more than I could say for the last one." Amara squeezed his arm in silent gratitude as they began their procession across the warm sand. The string quartet Zane had arranged played softly, but Amara barely heard the music. Her entire focus narrowed to the man waiting for her, the man who had stepped into her broken moment and helped her rebuild something more beautiful than she'd ever imagined. When she reached him, Zane took both her hands in his eyes never leaving hers. "You are extraordinary," he whispered for her ears alone. The ceremony was simple and heartfelt, their vows written by themselves rather than borrowed from tradition. Zane spoke first, his voice steady and full of emotion. "Amara, I married you on impulse in a moment that changed everything. Today, I marry you with complete certainty. You have seen me at my most vulnerable, my most guarded, and loved me through it all. You taught me that wealth means nothing without someone to share it, not someone impressed by it, but someone who sees beyond it to the man beneath. I vow to partner with you completely, to support your dreams as fiercely as my own, to love you honestly and passionately for all the days of my life." Tears sparkled in Amara's eyes as she began her own vows. "Zane, I married you as a stranger in a moment of shattered dreams and unexpected courage. Today, I marry you as my best friend, my lover, my sanctuary. You took my broken moment and helped me build something more beautiful than I ever imagined possible. You've shown me what real partnership feels like, not someone who wants to possess me, but someone who wants to walk beside me." Her voice strengthened. "I vow to continue choosing you every day, to face whatever comes together, to love you with my whole heart and soul for as long as we both shall live." They exchanged new ring-simple platinum bands engraved inside with the words, "Chosen, not by chance," and the date of their first meeting. "By the power vested in me," the officiant said, "I now pronounce you husband and wife again." He smiled warmly. "You may kiss your bride." Zane gathered Amara into his arms with reverent passion, his lips meeting hers in a kiss that spoke of forever, of promises kept and dreams shared. Around them, their small gathering of loved ones erupted in cheers and applause, but they barely heard, lost in each other, in the moment that sealed their extraordinary journey. The celebration afterward was intimate and joyful, a feast served on the beach as the sun began to set, music and dancing under strings of golden lights. Halfway through the evening, Zane whispered in Amara's ear, "I have something to show you." Taking her hand, he led her away from the festivities, down the beach, to where a small structure stood near the water's edge. Inside, Amara gasped at what awaited a beautiful studio space with state-of-the-art recording equipment, a grand piano, and windows that overlooked the ocean. "What is this?" she asked, turning in a slow circle. "Your music studio," Zane replied, his expression both nervous and excited. "For your compositions, your therapy work, whatever you want to create." "Zane," Amara breathed, overwhelmed by the thoughtfulness of the gift. "There's more," he said, leading her to a desk where architectural plans were spread out. These are the preliminary designs for the Amara Valentine Harrington Music Therapy Center, a place where children who can't afford traditional therapy can heal through music. Amara stared at the plans, her heart so full it felt like it might burst. "My dream," she whispered. "You remembered every word," Zane confirmed, drawing her into his arms. "Your passion, your vision, they deserve to be realized. The foundation is already established. The funding secured. All it needs is your direction, your heart." Tears spilled freely down Amara's cheeks as she looked up at the man who had transformed her life in ways she never could have imagined. "I love you so much," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "How did I get so lucky?" "I'm the lucky one," Zane insisted, framing her face with gentle hands. "The luckiest man alive." Their kiss was tender at first, then blazed into something more urgent, more primal. Without breaking apart, Zane swept her into his arms, carrying her to the comfortable daybed, positioned to face both the ocean and the piano. "What about our guests?" Amara murmured against his lips as he laid her gently on the soft surface. "They won't miss us for a while," Zane assured her, his hands already working at the simple closures of her gown. "Besides, it's our wedding night again." Under the moonlight streaming through the windows, they made love with the passionate intensity that had characterized their relationship from the start, bodies and souls connecting in perfect harmony. Each touch was an affirmation, each kiss a promise. Afterward, wrapped in each other's arms with the sound of waves providing a gentle soundtrack, Amara traced the strong lines of Zane's face with tender fingers. "Thank you," she whispered. "For the studio?" he asked, turning to press a kiss to her palm. "For everything," Amara clarified. "For marrying a stranger at the altar, for showing me what real love feels like, for building a future with me that honors both our dreams." Zane gathered her closer, his heartbeat strong and steady beneath her cheek. "This is just the beginning. Amara Valentine Harrington, the first chapter of the best story ever told." "Our story," she agreed, lifting her face for his kiss. As their lips met again, desire rekindling between them despite their recent passion. Both knew with absolute certainty that what had begun as an impulsive act in a moment of crisis had transformed into something rare and pursues love built on truth and choice, passion and partnership, a love that would only deepen with each passing day. Outside, the celebration continued, their loved ones dancing under the stars. But in their private sanctuary, Amara and Zane created their own celebration, a consummation of vows renewed, of futures entwined, of love that had transcended every boundary and expectation to become something extraordinary. This was their real beginning, not tainted by abandonment or deception, not complicated by hidden identities or wounded hearts, but pure and true and passionate. A love beyond all facades, beyond all pretense. A love that would last forever.